Alright, hello Internet. Thanks for joining me on another adventure of a Wii game review. Today we're going to be reviewing Muramasa? Muramasa? Anyway, Muramasa the Demon Blade. This came out in 2009 on the Wii. It was later re-released for the Vita as a remake with some extra levels and whatnot. So what kind of game is this? This is a action RPG. Feels more like a beat 'em up with some RPG elements. I guess it's sort of the same thing, just saying it different. But primarily, it feels more like a beat 'em up to me, to myself. What is it? It's a side-scrolling game, kind of like an old school. Like an old school side scroller beat 'em up, I guess is the best way to say it. It's not like Ninja Turtles or Final Fight where you're going to be kind of going up and down on a plane. You're just on one level. There are some spots where you can jump down lower, and there's some platforming in trees and buildings and whatnot. But primarily, it's just a side scroller beat 'em up. There's experience, weapon crafting, food, cooking, upgraded items. So it sounds like it's heavy in the RPG, but it doesn't feel like it when you're playing. So going into the story here, I'm just giving you a real basic story. The story is much more elaborate than this. So the story is that there's these demon blades, and that's your primary weapon, or really your only weapon. Is you have these swords that you get to use, and the demon blades make their users kill others, and then they go mad or they suffer horrible tragedies. So that's kind of the basic storyline of these weird swords you're using. And then there's two characters to choose from. Each has their own storyline. I haven't played the male yet. I'm just playing the female at this point still. I don't want to get too detailed about the story, as it could ruin some surprises for you. Really, it's hard. It's hard to tell anything without ruining any kind of twist or plot points. But as you progress through the game, and it unravels it pretty quick, you can get into it. And the story, I like the story. At first, I was like, this kind of made me mad because I didn't feel like I didn't have control of my own character. But I mean, you really do. It's just the way the story unraveled. Anyway, the story unravels through NPC interactions and cutscenes. So you definitely don't want to skip those. You want to talk to everybody and watch all your cutscenes. So basically you play a character. You just beat all the enemies up as you go through, and it's got a pretty good story. Again, I can get very detailed, but not going to, because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. Now, from what I read about the game, there is a great amount of detail that went into the design, not just for the hand-drawn artwork of the characters and their backgrounds and whatnot, but also for the storyline and the settings. They even kept the original Japanese audio tracks for the Western market, which is kind of interesting. They don't normally do that. They normally just badly dub, but in this case, they kept it. And I can't really speak to... I'm not really educated in Japanese mythos and artwork and whatnot, so I can't really speak to how accurate it is, but there was a lot of big points that was a thing, and I can't complain. It looks nice, and that gives us a nice transition to talking about the visuals of the game. First thing you're going to notice is a 2D side scroller. So in a world of 3D, kind of nice to get a 2D for a change. Well, being Nintendo, you probably get more 2D than you do other consoles, but it's a 2D side scroller. It plays kind of like a platformer, but it is a beat 'em up. And being a 2D side scroller, it's not a negative at all. The art style is amazing, and a breath of fresh air. It's based largely, like we were saying here, on the styles of Japanese folklore and mythos. But there's more to it. When you're playing this game, take a minute or just watch what I'm playing, and you'll see that some parts I just stop moving for some reason. There's animation everywhere. Look, when you stop, just look at the different levels, and it's not just parallax scrolling that you're seeing going on. Each layer has its own animations. Everything. Every time you stop, you could take a still, screenshot it, print it out, hang it on your wall, use it as legitimate art. The game is gorgeous. In no way does 480p hinder the visuals of this game. It's my favorite part of this game is the visuals. It's just, first I was like, oh, what is this hand-drawn, blah, blah, blah. But after 10 seconds, I was like, oh, this is a beautiful game. It made itself most obvious when I was in a city. There's smoke coming out of the chimneys, there's leaves in the foreground, the trees are shaking, there's wind blowing, there's just things blowing across the screen. There's people in the houses behind shaded windows moving around. There's just so many different things happening at once. And yeah, sure, some of it's looped, of course, but it's still fantastic. Amazing visuals in this game. So I like the visuals. How's the audio? Everything works well. There's no complaints. Very good job was done keeping the player immersed. Nothing stands out on its own to me, saying, oh my god, the audio, you have to, oh god, the sound effects, blah. Nothing stood out, but nothing detracts from the experience either. Some are more educated in music will have a better appreciation, no doubt, for the soundtrack, I'm sure. I enjoy it. I have no negatives to say about it, but it's not something I'm going to throw on my phone or on a disc and listen to separate. But it is well done. And again, someone who has a better appreciation, I'm sure, will enjoy it. Now, let's talk controls. This is a Wii game, so of course, will it just use one style, 2 styles, 3 styles, 4 styles? How many styles will this game support? Well, you can use the Wiimote with the nunchuck. That's not bad. And Waggle haters will like to know there's no motion controls in this game, which is fine. It doesn't need them. Don't put it where it's not needed. So Wiimote nunchuck, and it works. You can also use the classic or the Pro controller. I prefer the Pro controller over the classic. It lays the buttons in a more familiar pattern. Experienced gamers probably prefer this over using the Wiimote nunchuck. And drum roll, if you're a lucky one and have a Wii that supports the GameCube controllers, and you have GameCube controllers, you can use a GameCube controller. I repeat, you can use a GameCube controller. There's not a huge advantage, unfortunately, but they're just damn comfortable. So obviously, overall, my favorite is the GameCube controller. That really for just the comfort reasons. I actually thought the Pro controller was going to be my favorite this time around. Reason being that the jump is up on the directional. There's no custom mapping for me to move it to a button. I can't change that. So I thought using the Pro controller, your thumb falls more naturally on the directional than it does the analog. Using the directional being a 2D game, that would have more control. But I did not. So the analog works just as well as the D-pad in this case. So I defaulted back to the GameCube controller because that was really the only advantage the Pro would have had. Also, I like the way how really there's not a whole lot of buttons to use in this game. Everything is done with the A button, and on the GameCube controller, you'll notice the A button is about half the size of the controller, so there's no missing it. So I really like how everything kind of works around the action button as opposed to having them all even spacing for this game anyway. So definitely that. And how are the controls? They're great. Everything's easy. Makes sense after a few minutes of gameplay. It's not really a learning curve. You just gotta figure it out. There is a tutorial that shows you what to do, but even after that, after your tutorial, you're still always a little foggy. Combos, juggling enemies, it's easy, it's fun. Controls are great. There's just that stupid up button, it's the jump. And that leads me to the two gripes. One is jump. It's the up. When will people stop doing that? Don't make jump up. But it really doesn't hinder you. It's more of a nitpicking, I guess. And then two, can't remap buttons. Isn't a big deal, except that you kind of want to remap that jump button. And I'll leave that there. That's really it. So a little bit about the gameplay. Once you select which character storyline you want to progress with, and you can select difficulty. Also, there's 2 levels of difficulty. But then you select your character storyline. Again, I've only done the female protagonist so far. And it becomes pretty obvious shortly after that that it's a beat 'em up game. There's attack combos, you can juggle your attacks, as I was saying. So that's really straightforward. And again, you're just on a platformer plane, so you're just going across a 2D world where you can jump up in trees or jump in levels for buildings, or sometimes if there's water below you, you can jump down. But it's not like a final fight where there's a wide walking area, where it's like that 2.5 sort of over the top kind of view. This is strictly sideways. Now what stands out is really the biggest standout is the weapons. There's an interesting dynamic going on here. At some point your weapon will break, but don't worry, because you have 3 total, so you have 2 more equipped that you can swap to. The broken sword will repair itself, so don't worry about that. If one does break, you'll find out quickly that if you don't swap it out, you no longer can block attacks, and you're dealing pretty much no damage. While we're on the topic of the weapons, you can forge new swords, and you do it right from the menu. Just hit the start button, the pause button, the plus button, whatever it is, depending on your controller. There's no special place to visit, it's just the menu. It's kind of like a hierarchy. You scroll through it and you select the sword you want to build or forge, and then you get it. You get it right away. You don't have to travel to a place, you don't have to do anything special. The only prerequisite really is you have to have enough collected souls. Those are kind of lying around. Also, as you defeat people, enemies, you'll gather some as well. And then the other prerequisite is to build a certain sword, you have to have other swords before it built, which is fine. I haven't found this annoying or limiting in any way as of yet. For the RPG part of it, it's not heavy on the RPG elements. It has them all, but they don't rule the game. They don't control your actions. So you do gain some levels. There is experience. Every time you defeat a wave of enemies, you'll get some experience from that. Then as you gain levels, you increase in health and stats, of course. But it takes a spot on the back burner. It doesn't really control the gameplay. It's pretty fluid without the RPG part. Anyway, for me it was like that. Maybe later in the game it's more important, but so far I don't have to grind for anything. I get to the end of the level, do what I need to do, I can move on. The play is smooth. You're getting a good, what I would assume is 60 frames per second the whole time. There's a few moments where the game seems to slow down, but I can't tell if it's an artistic choice or if it's the system not holding up. I can't imagine it's the Wii getting bogged down by a side scroller, but I guess that's possible. There is a lot of animation. Again, I think it's more intentional slowdown, but I can't tell. Now, as far for the gameplay can get a little repetitive. The enemies are kind of the same, so you really don't grow on attacks too much. And I felt it getting the same in the first couple levels. I was like, kind of the same. But I kept going. I didn't get too bored with it. It sort of sat in the back of my head, but it didn't make me want to stop playing the game. It still felt accomplished after defeating enemies, bosses, and as you learn how to do combos, you feel that's always exciting, trying out new stuff, having it work. But really the biggest driving factor, what motivates this game, is the artwork, the art direction, the music, the storyline, um, the immersion itself makes you go forward. The storytelling is done excellent in this. If you're paying attention to the storylines, so people skip stories, I definitely suggest reading everything. So it doesn't drive you forward with a thump, 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 thump of music or promise of amazing things. It's just a nice continuation of the story, and just the art direction overall is just amazing. I can't talk about that too much about this game. That's really where it's at. Now, what about the reviews? They're all positive. Everything was I would say an average to above average review that I read through. Nothing negative really. Just maybe that it was a bit repetitive. That was really about it. But I liked it. And I think gameplay, I agree with him, said. But it really did not receive enough credit in the reviews for its artwork. And I think that's really what a lot of people are going back to for this game. So do I think it's worth picking up? Yes. Yeah. And right now it's trending about $20, complete in box, $19 loose. I'll never understand how they get those averages. This is a $20 game, used. Of course, new, I'm sure it's probably worth more. I didn't really bother checking that. Anyway, I think I got this for $5 maybe. I don't know. I can't remember. But I remember not spending $20 because I'm cheap. It's only a few games I'll spend $20 more on. It's a game I've never played. Rarely do I take that chance. So I imagine $5 just or less is what I got for it, or paid for it. Anyway, deals are out there, so find one, get it. Now, for some people, it's not going to be worth it. The $20. And I can see why. I mean, some people won't appreciate the style and the pace of the game. For them, this isn't for them. But if you're a more mature gamer, and I don't mean older, even though I'm an older gamer, I've been around gaming since the Ataris. But if you're a more mature gamer who can stop and take your time to enjoy what's being shown to you, the artwork, the audio, the storyline, not just blast through the levels to the next objective, this will be a more rewarding game for you. So yeah, so if you're a gamer who enjoys what a game is past just getting through levels, yeah, you're gonna like this game. If you're a gamer who's obsessed about just specs, 4K, HDR, blah 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 blah, this game isn't for you. And really, honestly, probably retro games are not for you anyway. And that's fine. Everyone has their own sort of thing. I like it all. That's me. So for me, after playing the game, knowing what it is, $20 is completely a fair price. But if I was going in blindly, spending $20, it'd be a hard sell since I've never heard of it prior to this, or prior to me buying it. I guess I heard of it now since I played it. Anyway, $20, fair price. I would say get it. And that's really it. This is one of my longer reviews. Sorry about that, guys. Well, enjoy the internet now, I guess. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.